course, I don't know the sort of the ins and outs, and it would be nice if I could find a link to the article, but I can't. But I can tell you the story. And I've said this in my genocide studies series. There is psychological research that demonstrates if you try to create a sense of sympathy or empathy for a collective group, it's better to represent the collective as an individual. So, super cliche, super exaggerated example. I already apologize for the example, but this is the example that was given in the research. I forget who it was by. There's a tribe of, you know, starving Africans somewhere. I mean, really cliche, right? Sort of grotesque example. There's a tribe of starving Africans, and you want, because you're good-natured, you want to help this starving tribe of Africans rather than the starving people that live, you know, 10 minutes down the road from your house. But anyway, that aside, you're trying to help the starving Africans, and in order to do that, you want to depict the level of impoverishment to a global community of potential donors. The research shows that it's better for you to show a depiction of 1 or 2 children, and I think actually it says just 1, right? But let's just say 1 or 2 children. A young boy, he's infirmed, he's malnourished, flies on his face. I mean, as cliche as you can possibly think. To elicit the sympathy and the concern of potential donors, you will be more effective in just showing that one image. So if you show that one image, oh my goodness, look at those starving Africans. Sweetie, let's write a check to, you know, some good-natured cause to help Africans. Okay, rather, of course, than, you know, going down to your local homeless shelter, you know, 10 minutes from where you live and helping out the people in your own community. But, you know, that being aside, you know, I'm not saying not to help starving Africans, but, you know, that's what people do. If I want to solicit the same group and try and get same donor response, but I show the entire village of starving people, so there's, you know, 400 people in the picture and they all look infirmed. Oh, what's my donation going to do? My donation is not going to help change anything. Look at the scale. Look at the scope. Right? This is why you see a lot of these missionary, you know, organizations or humanitarian organizations say something along the line of, you can sponsor, you know, Mary or Pablo or, you know, this one young boy or young girl, and they'll write with you directly because they recognize that it's more of an intimate relationship and the organization stands to better communication with you and the person that you're helping, and thus also receive more donation dollars if there's a sense of direct contact with one. I'm making the life of this one person better. But of course, we know this. I would hope, maybe not. We know that when you cut that check and send, and I'm not telling you not to cut the check, right? But when you cut that check's not just going to poor little Paulo, right? That check goes to everybody in the community, everybody in the village. Like, so that money is dispersed across the entire community. He's not the only one living it up while his siblings and his relatives and his neighbors are starving, right? That's not how that works. But they want you, the donation organizations want you to think that, and they do. I mean, you probably are communicating with a real boy, and, you know, he really is writing to you. But that sense of connection is facilitated insofar as I have connection with one. When it becomes this group, this massive account, well, it's too diluted. I am indifferent then to the concerns of the world's suffering. I don't have a position with respect to global peace or global war or global poverty or global AIDS or global blah, 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 global genocide even. Right? What am I going to be able to do with respect to that? That's a behemoth of a problem. It's overwhelmingly large of a problem. It's way too large for any one individual. Mother Teresa, she attempted to educate, introduce literacy, help to feed. Think about all that she did. I mean, she got canonized, to my knowledge. I can't do half the work that she did. And I'm talking about Jason J. Campbell. I work hard as hell. I do this all day long, right? I feel like I'm a human rights activist. I am a human rights activist because education is a human right. Like, so this is my human rights work. And I work hard at this, but I'm no Mother Teresa. I can't work as hard as her. And think about what happened. Literacy is still as high as ever. the world is still in sham. It's not to say that her work was futile, but seriously, there comes a point at which you are indifferent to the plight of the other person. And this is what Nietzsche's saying, conceptually. I'm being a little ghetto here. But the idea is, what is my consideration in your suffering? Right? What does your suffering have to do with me? I mean, to be frank, right? What does your suffering have to do with me? The only way that I'm going to be interested in the plight of the other is if your plight affects my ego. If there is a sense in which me cutting the check satisfies a need in me to say, I'm a good person, right? I'm better than Bob down the street because Bob doesn't cut the check, but I cut the check. I'm a check cutter, and that makes me a good person. Well, it's a win-win in a sense, right? You get an action in the world, the individuals in that community are helped, and your ego is stroked, right? For a moral system to come in now, think about this, right? For a moral system to come in now, even Kantian, Nietzsche hates Kant, conceptually speaking. It doesn't even have to be religious. It can be a Kantian system, right? A deontological system that comes in and says, no, that action is immoral because the motivation for that action was sort of self-aggrandizement or ego stroking or what have you, and the action really should be altruistic and concerned for others in and of itself. Nietzsche's like, are you serious? Let's think practically about that. So you would rather me not cut the check, since you know that the only reason I'm cutting the check is because their suffering gives me an opportunity to show how good of a person I am, right? To demonstrate how good so literally, and I mean demonstrate in the literal sense, right? To demonstrate how good a person I am. It is ego. It's about me. It's about my motivation. I didn't cause their suffering. I'm not the bad guy here. They're already suffering. But I want you to know that I'm cutting the check. Well, you would rather me not cut the check and save their lives because me cutting the check is motivated by my own ego? I mean, that doesn't make any sense, Nietzsche would say, right? Nietzsche would say, wow, so my action would be immoral because the motivation to act creates a better state of affairs for the other person, but the reason why it creates the better state of affairs for the other person, the reason why the act helps someone else was because the act was motivated by my own interest for myself, and that's a bad thing? How is that a bad thing? Is it a bad thing for that kid who got the check? Is it a bad thing for the community that got the check? Now, granted, right, Zizek is in the back of my head talking, saying, oh, remember, we need to change the condition in which the child was able to live in a level of impoverishment. We're not going to go that deep, right? I get that discourse, right? I get that discourse. We're not concerned with that right now. There's only so much I can do in this lecture series, right? But the idea is just a demonstration of the way in which your actions can be moral, your actions can help to contribute to the betterment of society, and be wholly motivated out of your own ego. Hi, I'm Dr. Jason J. Campbell. I want to present you to my lecture series and my notes. Thank you for watching my videos, right? I don't have to wave a banner of how altruistic and how great I am, because it's not really about altruism. I get a lot of ego out of this. There is a lot of me in this, right? If it's all ego, if I present it as, it's really not about your concerns and I just want to be on display, well, you won't be watching this. But there's a lot of ego on your part too, right? And what we immediately recognize is what we're dealing with is egos talking with egos. Egoists talking with egoists. Egoism as being the only paradigm that exists here. And it is the recognition that it's really the only game in town, right? Egoism, so to speak, colloquially. So, one lacks the requisite concern for the plight of others unless tending to that concern serves egoistic motivations. Otherwise, there's no need to assist. Why would I assist? Why would I help you in your concerns? Why would I help you in your suffering if me helping you in your suffering does nothing for me? Right? The reason why I'm helping you is because my assistance for you helps me. Now, it just sounds really primal. It sounds really, I can imagine for people hearing this for the first time must be like, Nietzsche's off his meds. But I'm not